Good evening. This week's Parsha, Parshas Tetzei, the Baal Shem Tov said on this opening pasuk, Tetzei la milchama al oyevecha, when you go out to wage war against your enemy, that it's a remez to month of Elul, that we begin waging our war. And the warfare begins with our daily avodah and things that we do or that we don't do. And the Baal Shem Tov said his famous thought that a Yid an entire lifetime is waging war. He does an aveira, he feels bad, he does tshuva, but a month later he does the same aveira again. So this is the battleground of life, and each and every day carries with it that the strong winds of warfare between the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. So it's a slap, said the Baal Shem Tov, a patch each way. When we do the aveira, the Yetzer Hara won the battle for that minute. And then the opposite, that the Yetzer Tov, whenever does the tshuva or feels remorse or bad, he gives back a slap to the Yetzer Hara. And the Baal Shem Tov said famously that the avodah, the job of a person in his life, is to get in the last patch. That means the Yetzer Tov, that he should get in, that when a person is returning his neshama after 120 years to Shemayim, that yes, he did a lot of aveiros, we're human, we're not tzaddikim gemurim, but the last patch from one to the other was from the good, the Yetzer Tov, to the Yetzer Hara, and we left this world with the emblem of tshuva proudly on our neshama, and coming to meet the Bezdin Shel Mala. Now, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, my Rosh Yeshiva, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, asked, why is it that so many halachas, the halachas of Kedushin, Gittin, Yevama, Chalitza, Nesuin, all of these halachas are discussed in this week's sedra, that it normally should belong in Vayikra, in Parshas Emor, where there was a discussion of all the Isurei Bia and all the type of relationships, and that's where it would really belong. Here in Devarim, the first three sedras of Devarim was the rebuke, a reminiscence of Moshe Rabbeinu about what Klal Yisrael did in the history of being in the Midbar and all of the problems. And then he goes into lofty exchange of mitzvahs and different things that Klal Yisrael, as a Klal Yisrael, should know and be very clear in. So the Rosh Yeshiva said that it's over here because it is a Klal Yisrael sefer. You know, Rashi's opinion is that the Melech Yisrael, although he had, as I said last week, 2 Sifrei Torah, Rashi held that the one that he went out and carried with him everywhere he went was only Sefer Devarim. It was not the entire Chamisha Chumshei Torah, the 5 books. And the one that was in his house was a regular Sefer Torah with everything for his personal use. And why was that? So the Rosh Yeshiva explained that the entire Sefer Devarim is a book of Klal, the entire unit of Klal Yisrael, and that the theme of every sedra was as a Klal Yisrael, the good, the bad, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, to come into play. So ask the Rosh Yeshiva, so if that's the case, why would something like Kedushin, which is a private matter between a man and a wife, that they get married and they have a family and that they are here in Olam Hazeh to do mitzvahs, but it's a private thing, it's not a... So the Rosh Yeshiva answered and said, no, it is part of Klal Yisrael. And with that, he answered a famous question, that why is it that when a chosan goes into shul, he exempts the entire, during his Sheva Brachas, and he's davening Shachris or Mincha, he exempts the entire tzibur from Tachnun. Yet, if somebody is an ovel, lo aleinu, lo aleichem, and he goes into shul, he doesn't say Tachnun, but everybody else has to say Tachnun. And the Rosh Yeshiva explained, because this chosan is part of a link of Klal Yisrael. He's not some private individual who got married. He is a yid with a neshama which is intertwined with all the neshamas of Klal Yisrael. And when he gets married, he's concluding one aspect of his life, but then he is diving in to his total reason for existence and what he should do in Shleimus. And that is the link in Klal Yisrael, the Shalsheles HaZohav, the golden link of Yid to Yid to Yid and Mishpacha to Mishpacha. So when he comes in during his Sheva Brachas, he is a national simcha. He is a Klal Yisrael simcha, and that's why we all don't say Tachnun. But by Avelis, again, lo aleichem, lo aleinu, lo aleichem, when someone is sitting Shiva, and then they go into shul because they don't have a minyan, or there's a reason that they had to go into shul to daven and say Kaddish, it's only his Avelis. It's not the Avelis derabim. And that's the reason why the tzibur still has to say Tachnun, but he himself does not say Tachnun. So all these mitzvahs that would seem like a personal thing, that Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh, there's Zeh Lo Zeh, and one mimer, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bo Zeh, that every Yisrael, every Yid in Klal Yisrael is a guarantor, Arevim, an Orev, for another Yid. It's not like I'm alone. No matter how rich or how big a tzaddik someone may be, if he has to say Kaddish, he has to come on to 9 other Yidden. He's not alone here in this world. He wants to say Kedusha. He wants to say Baruch Hu. He needs a minyan. And a person getting married has to have a minyan. He doesn't need 1,000 people, but the 10 men have to be there by the chuppah, that it should be a valid chuppah. So explained the Rosh Yeshiva why these halachas are here in the parsha of Kiseitze, in the Sefer of Devarim, and not separate in Vayikra, where one would have assumed it belongs. Now, there is the inyan of Ben Sorer or Morer, which basically means that parents see that there is a child in the household who is way out of bounds. He's eating a ton of meat and drinking nonstop wine. And they take him to a Bezdin, and Bezdin says, as the Chazal say, that it's better that his life should be cut short than live through a life of stealing and causing so much trouble for others, that he be killed now and he's executed if it happens to be. The Gemara has a discussion if Ben Sorah or Mora ever happened, because the requirements of the family are so detailed that it's almost an impossibility. For instance, the appearance of the mother and the father when they appear before Bezdin have to be like twins. Now, how could that be? A woman and a husband look exactly like twins? That their voices have to be exactly the same, that if one is on the other side of a curtain and someone is listening and he cannot differentiate between who is the man and who is the wife, there's no Ben Sorah or Mora. They can't do anything to this young child. And their height has to be, the Gemara says, exactly the same. So therefore, there is an opinion, the Gemara, Ben Sorah or Mora never happened and never will be. So why would the Torah have such a mitzvah that's almost an impossibility? Lahagdil Torah uliadira, so that people should learn the inyanim, and there's a whole parak about it in the Gemara, and that lahagdil Torah uliadira, that they have the schar of limud haTorah, and the nachas ruach is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in actuality, that opinion is it never happened and it never could happen. Then another opinion came back to answer, I was in a city where they had a Ben Sorah or Mora. So it did happen. But we're talking about something one in literally a million, if it could actually happen. But the Mefarshim, when it says Lahagdil Torah li'adira, one of them asked, what could we learn out from this? So they answer and say, the message to each and every Yid is that when it says Einenu Shomea Bikolenu, that this young boy, their son, does not listen to our voice. It's not plural. It's not voices. He doesn't listen to our voice. And that's what the Gemara learned, that the voice has to be the exact same, because it says the word voice in a singular, meaning it has to be the same. But the message for each and every family is that there has to be consistency and constancy between parents. That means a mother can't say to the child, you are not to do this and that tomorrow, even though some of your friends want to go there or do this. And then an hour later, the father privately says to the son, go ahead, I don't mind if you do it. That's mixed messages and mixed singles. There is no consistency. And that's where many problems in homes develop, that the father says one thing and the mother says something else, diametrically opposed to what the father said. It not only is a problem for children in sizing up what's important and what's not important, but it also causes shalom bayis problems. Because sooner or later it will come out that he ended up doing it. Oh, well, Tati said to me he didn't mind. What? After I told you that under no circumstance are you to do this and that, and he went and told you the opposite, so it causes strife and it causes division. So the message of Ben Sorah Moreh is to the parents and then to all the parents of Klal Yisrael, that these type of rebellious children, a lot, unfortunately, has to do with the parents. Now, I always try to calm down the parents and say that in every family, you can have 6 that are learning in kollel, and the wives are running around to the sick and the poor, feeding them and doing beautiful people, Torah, mitzvahs, and everything. And they have one son that's off the derech. I just learned this term yesterday, OTD, off the derech. I don't know if any of you have ever heard that term, but someone who grows up in a yeshiva, grows up in a frum home, and suddenly there's something that turns them off. So a lot has to do with the atmosphere and the backbone of the family, where they live and where they come from. Now, we have another mitzvah in this sedra called Shiluach HaKan. Some pronounce it Shiluach HaKain, but commonly it's pronounced Shiluach HaKan. And what is that? That if somebody finds a nest, and there's a mother and there's baby birds in that nest, and the man wants the babies, he's not allowed to take the babies without first sending away the mother. Now, this is a very big mitzvah. As a matter of fact, in many communities here in Borough Park, there are people that's their whole parnosa. They find nests with birds in it, and they pair up somebody who wants that mitzvah of sending away the mother and keeping the children. And then they're allowed to take the children. And the Torah says in our sedra, Shiluach HaKan, someone who does that mitzvah, v'harachta yomim. You can end up living longer. And there's only 2 mitzvahs in the whole Torah that the Torah openly says that if you do this mitzvah, so then you have arichas yomim v'shonim tovos. It's Shiluach HaKan, and the other is Kibbut Av V'Em. And the Medrash, interestingly, says that these 2 mitzvahs that the Torah promises you, arichas yomim, that these 2 mitzvahs, the Shiluach HaKan is the easiest mitzvah in the Torah, and Kibbut Av V'Em is the hardest mitzvah. So says the Medrash. And the Ramban comes and says Shiluach HaKan is called the easiest mitzvah because it deals with Rachmanis, pity, mercy, that Klal Yisrael have as part of their DNA, inherent in the essence, etched into the essence of their very fiber and being, the characteristic of having compassion. So says the Ramban, it's the easiest mitzvah because that's what we're made up of. And this whole mitzvah is about compassion. How can you go take children away right in front of the mother? So you have to be compassionate. You have to first send away the mother, and then you can take the nest, the children. So, but the Meforshim asked, but why is Kibbut Av V'Em considered the hardest mitzvah? And the answer is And it's a psychological answer. Because built into the psyche of a person, the average person doesn't want to ever feel that they're dependent on another person. It's a natural inner feeling of a person. Now, when a person grows up, he knows from age 1 or whatever that his bath, his food, he comes home from school, that there's a hot meal on the table, and that he has a clean shirt that's already washed and ironed and starched, the shirt, the pants, the socks, the everything. That when he's coughing in the middle of the night at 2 o'clock, the mother or father comes running in. Are you okay? We heard that you're coughing. So from being born, the time of birth, until he's 20 or 25 and he moves out of the house, he's dependent for his existence on parents. And if we think into it, because on the surface it would seem, what? That's our attitude to parents? That when we finally can shake off the yoke of dependency, we're thrilled to do so. But the truth is that at the bottom of the line and the bottom of the totem pole, it is the truth. And you find that many people, as soon as they can be, suddenly they have money or they got an excellent job, they're moving into their own apartments. Yeah, they call once a day or they visit once a week. But they're happy to be like on their own, that they've shaken off that atmospheric independence on parents or anyone else. I knew someone that was mamash al yasam from almost birth. He didn't even know his parents. And a family took him in and treated him like a son, and he loved him. And he went into a business and became wealthy. And that was it with the parents. He called them, and there was no outward bad feeling, but the parents, who, for the reasons that he wasn't growing up in their house, that he didn't want anything to do with them. And in the other case that I began with, there were no parents. But the people who took him in, as soon as he got on his feet, he barely knew them. And they were devastated. I mean, we took you in, we loved you, we stood by you by every decision, by every crossroad that you had to. Why was there this reaction? And it's because of what I just said to you. That he felt that he would have been in an orphanage, or he would have been, and he had to come on to these people for survival and for existence. But the minute that he was able to fly off into the horizon in a way that he didn't need them, he didn't have them, he did it immediately. And the person was a nice person. But he was deficient in his hakoras hatov. So the point being that there is never a feeling of dependence, because if the person stepped back in his hakoras hatov, he would realize that these people didn't have to do for him. Now, in a case of a parent, a regular parent, that the child is acting like this, it's deficient. No matter how many times a week he goes to visit, but there's something burning in him, inside him, calling for this independence. And that's why, says the Ramban, it's the most difficult mitzvah in the Torah to be Mekayim, because it's so ingrained in the psyche of a person to want that independence. Now, another mitzvah, and I know I'm jumping from mitzvah to mitzvah because this sedra is like a pomegranate replete with seeds of mitzvahs that are being mentioned. And the next mitzvah that I want to talk out and bring out a thought that could be useful for us in our lives is the fact that the pasuk says, Ki sivne bayis chodosh, that when a person builds a house, a new house, v'yosisa makel legagecha, you have to make a railing, a fence on the roof, because a safeguard. If somebody goes up on top of your house and is on the roof without a railing, there's a good chance he's going to fall off. And the pasuk says it in our sedra, that he could fall down and there can be a death caused because there was no railing. Now, the Chazal say, and Rashi brings it, that if someone does the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan, he is zoicha to have enough money to get himself a new house. In other words, to build himself a new house, that means the schus of Shiluach HaKan is not just living long, but it's the fact that you're going to be zoicha to become rich. But the Chazal say right away that the whole reason why you became rich and you were able to build a house is so that you should have the mitzvah of ma'akel legagecha. And if you don't build the railing, you'll end up losing your money and you'll have to lose the house eventually also. So the point being that our whole hashkafa, our outlook in life, when things happen to us, especially successful things, we have to direct our mind of what is the schar mitzvah. That over here, because of Shiluach HaKan, wasn't that he got rich, it was so that he could be Makayim another mitzvah. And the Chazal say it, Rashi brings it, that we should be able to have the mitzvah of Makkah. And if the person was too busy or forgot to do the Makkah, so he ends up losing the house. Because he didn't become rich and be able to build a new house just because of luxury. He was zoicha because he did the mitzvah of Shiluach HaKan, which gave him the opportunity to do the next mitzvah. Now we in our lives, as we encounter different opportunities, we have to open up our eyes. And even on vacations, there are people who go on a vacation. There's nothing wrong with going on a vacation. People are human. They need a breather. They need some fresh air. They need a change of scenery. But there are people who go on the vacation and say, thank you, Hashem, for giving me the vacation, the money to pay for it and everything. And let me see what mitzvah I can do on the first day that will make you happy that you gave me the opportunity of this trip. Some people would find somebody to put a tefillin. Some people would walk over to somebody with a pushka and a dollar bill and say, I'm not making you my shliach because I could just give the tzedakah myself. But I'm giving you the dollar as a gift. So it's now your dollar, and put it into this pushka so you are right away getting the mitzvah of tzedakah, the mitzvah of charity, which is one of the most beautiful mitzvahs of our Torah in giving tzedakah. So we have to find a vehicle to be able to have mitzvah goreres mitzvah. And that encases and ensures, that's the insurance policy, that that which we have gained is going to continue and grow in its dimension. There's a mitzvah of not having an ox, a shor v'chamor, an ox and a donkey plowing a field. It's called kalayim, and there are a few types of kalayim. It's not only that, it's in a field, we can't wear kalayim. It's shatnez, wool and linen. And the Arizal says that somebody who puts on a jacket or a coat, even for one day, and he wears it as shatnez, his tefillas are not listened to for 40 days in Shemayim. So says the Arizal. But the Even Ezra talks about the shor, he wants to give a reason, even though it is a chok. So we don't have a reason, but he gives a reason. And he says that the shor is mighty and much faster and tougher than the chamor, than the donkey. And if you're going to pair them up, it's going to be undue pressure on the donkey, because the shor will want to move much faster, and he'll want to get around the field at a pace that the chamor cannot keep up with him. Now, the Dazikenim and the Balei Tosfos say a different reason, because the shor is a kosher animal, and it chews its cud. The chamor is treif. A donkey is not kosher, and it doesn't chew its cud. So if you put them together, that they have to be together an entire day, either the reason is like the Even Ezra, because one can't keep up with the other, and it's not fair to put them together, that one could move at a certain pace quickly and move and do, and the other one can't do it. Or like the Dazikenim says, that one is busy chewing and eating a whole day. He's constantly chewing his cud. And the chamor has to listen to this, and if it's hungry, it doesn't chew its cud at 8, and maybe 5 hours later, it hears the shor eating and chewing and swallowing and constantly doing this, so it's pain for the chamor. So the Even Ezra says it's because of the workload, and one's stronger than the other. And the Dazikenim and Balei Tosfos say because of the chewing of its cud as a kosher animal, will continue doing that throughout the day, and it will be painful to the chamor who's not doing it. What is the message to us? The message to us is that we can put other people that we have to do with in a terrible position of pressure. A wife could say to a husband, our next door neighbor or my sister-in-law just got a brand new kitchen, $70,000. Look at the shabby kitchen that I'm working in, broken this, broken that, so old. This husband is getting up in the morning, running to a minyan, running to work, putting in a full day, coming back home and taking a bite, and then running off to Mincha Ma'ariv, and doing everything he can to support the family with dignity. And he'd love for his wife to be happy. but he can't reach the financial demand. That's the shor and the chamor together. That one is at one pace and one is putting on pressure on the other. And in school, if sometimes there's an Aleph class or a Bais class, we, of course, many don't call it that, but soon everyone realizes that this is the smarter group of children and they could move at a greater pace. And the other class is a pace that the students are very happy because this is what they can handle. And to just force your child to be in the Aleph class because you don't want your 3 friends that you have lunch with every week talk about the 2 levels of class and that you're not going to be so comfortable, force your child to be in the Aleph class when they can't keep up, when they're frustrated, when they're going to be turned off, when they are not keeping up to the others and losing out on an opportunity which can be in the weaker class a golden opportunity, learning well, growing, thriving, happy, and it can be turned into a disaster because of the ego of the mother or the father. And this happens all the time. So we sometimes have to stop for that moment to give consideration. What is the best for that person in the given set of circumstances? The examples, let's say, that I gave. And we have to rise above the occasion to show good character and a good value system. The wife can say, well, the fact that she has such a gorgeous kitchen new, I'm very happy for her. And, maybe we'll get new cabinets at one point, something minor to improve what the feeling is of problem in her kitchen. And the parent can say, I'm happy that my child's in the Bais class because they're thriving and they're thrilled and they have good friends, and be happy without the status symbol. Now, there is a pasuk in this week's sedra that says, Lo Sa'ev Mitzri, that we are not allowed to hate the Mitzrayim. And the pasuk goes further and says, after 3 generations, you can even marry a Mitzri. If they're a 3rd generation. But when the pasuk talks about Ammon and Moav, it says you are never allowed to marry someone from a family of Ammon or Moav, ever, 100 generations. And the reason is because the Mitzrayim hosted you. Now, Nebuch, if that's called hosting, that they were taking our children and throwing them in the water, that the Medrash says that Paro used to shecht, slaughter, every day in the morning 150 Jewish children, and at night another 150, and bathe in their blood. The Mitzrayim killed 30,000 Jewish boys by putting them into the cement when they were building Pisum and Ramses. These are the people that we have to not hate? Look how they treat it. This is called hosting. But the fact is this, that a ray of good is never allowed to be swallowed up by the ocean or sea of hate. That means, yes, the Mitzrayim were Rishoyim Gemurim. But the fact is, we lived for 210 years and we survived. We survived in their land. There was a place we slept, there was a place we ate, and that little bit of good is called Hakoras Hatov, can never be wiped out. So when a person says, how could I ever show appreciation after 12 years of living in their house or being in the school that I didn't pay a penny tuition to? There was a teacher one day who said this and that to me. Oh, so that comment wipes out the sea of appreciation of the good ray of light, the goodness, that drop of goodness that was there? We have to be able, the pasuk says it, Lo Sasai of Mitzri. And everyone knows what they did to us. So we have to rise above. It means refining our character, going above and beyond the human dimension, because somebody got out of Mitzrayim, they would have spat and never wanted to see them again. But the Torah says after 3 generations, you could even marry into them. But by Ammon and Moab, they had flowing water. And when Moshe Rabbeinu sent a message to them, sell me the bread, sell me the water. I'm not asking you for any favors. Charge me full price. But we need the bread and we need the water. The answer from them was, you step near us and you're going to be finished. Didn't happen like that. Baruch Hashem, they were able to defend themselves and always succeed, Klal Yisrael. But it showed in the difference, because they were murderers, but there was a side to them in Mitzrayim that they made sure there was enough food for them at night. No one died because of hunger. No one died because of a lack of place to live and to be. But the Ammon and Moab, the Meforshim say, it showed they were rotten at the core. That their DNA was rotten not to give water, which they were offering full price for. And that type of person, even 100 generations later, you don't want anything to do with them. At the beginning of the parsha, there is a parsha of Nachla. And it says, the pasuk says, if a man has 2 wives, one he likes better than the other, but the Bechor, the older child, the firstborn, was from the one that he didn't like so much. So the Torah, the pasuk says that you cannot ignore the fact that he's the Bechor, just because he was the son of the wife that you liked less than the other one, because Bechor is his right, a firstborn right, and in division and distribution of your items that you have in your house that you're going to give over as a inheritance to the children after you pass on, is something which has to go with the halacha. Now, the pasuk says, "V'hoya biyom hanchilo es banav," and it will be on the day that you're going to give over inheritance to your children. Eis asher yihielo, that which he possesses. Now, all the Meforshim say those words are extra. Of course, if a person dies, he only can give over that which he has. Why does the pasuk have to say, Eis asher yihielo, that which he possesses? You can't give something that you don't possess. So, and the word v'hoya, they question when a person dies, why should they use the word v'hoya, which is a simcha? They should use the word vayehi, that when it comes to pass that the man dies, so then in the halachas of Yerusha, the Bechor has to take preference. So they answer and say, because the Eis Asher Yiyalo is not talking about the house and the car and the money in the bank. It's talking about the entire flavor of his lifetime. You know, many people, today everyone's so busy with their cell phones and with their texting and all of that. But for hundreds of years, there was a kesher with grandparents, a baba and a zayda, that every single week the family went to visit. And even if the grandfather didn't talk much, but the children sat there at the table as they eat the piece of cake that the bubby brings out. And there's a word from the grandfather about his town in Europe, or he shares some of the flavor of his life. Or when we come together Yom Tif and Shabbos, and we're at a Shabbos table of a Baba and a Zayda, so we see what the flavor, the taste of what the backbone of the home is. And that supersedes the money and the house and the car and all of that. Unfortunately, families get bogged down with the pure material, and they destroy the family. That means they distribute whatever was left over, and one member of the family, for a good reason maybe, got an extra $20,000. And the other member of the family is angry that he got $20,000 more than he got. The children don't go to each other's bar mitzvahs. They don't go to each other's chasnas. They destroy a family in the name of a few dollars, that usually the amount of money, and it makes no difference the amount of money, but sometimes it's over even a small amount that in a year or two the money's gone. And the family, which was a unit, beautiful, simchas, Yom Tif, vacations, so beautiful, is down the drain. So the reason the Meforshim say that this pasuk begins with V'hoya, a simcha, is because it's going on Eis Asher Yiyalo, because we understand that the inheritance of the physical stuff, that there's a breakdown, that there's a halacha, and that there's a way of going about it. And that would write Vayehi, because the person died. It would be sad. But because of V'hoya, the simcha reflects the words of the pasuk, Eis Asher Yiyalo, that which he possesses, the father possessed, and was able to give over that feeling, that hergish, the taste, and to bring and conjure up the memories. That's V'hoya. That's a simcha for each and every family. And we should continue in Elul to capture the theme of the day, the Tekiah Shofar, the L'David Hashem Ori V'Yishi, and internalize it. Not just travel through and miss the whole destination of what the travel is about.